The Indianapolis Colts quarterback carousel keeps going round and round and round. Starting in 2018, Chris Ballard and Frank Reich have trotted out 4 different quarterbacks in 4 straight years, and now they're trotting out their 5th. Stability at the most important position in sports is critical to creating long-term success, which is why there's almost never any legitimate options on the open market, something the Colts have had to find out the hard way. Since Luck retired, they've started a backup, a man on the brink of retirement, and a complete reclamation project, only to admit failure and turn to the next guy year after year after year. But this time, it's different, right? Well, with Matt Ryan coming to town, it has to be. Super Bowl windows don't last forever. Although he recently turned 37 years old and is coming off several disappointing seasons, especially last year, that was mostly the fault of the coaching staff and surrounding talent. Or was it also on Ryan? The crucial questions heading into year 1 are just how good will he be, and is he different enough compared to his 4 predecessors? First, we'll need to figure out what went wrong with the Falcons this past season to help project how good or not good Ryan will be. He finished as the 15th most efficient quarterback in the league, and the Falcons clawed their way to a 7-10 record with a pretty below-average roster. Ryan is used to playing with the likes of Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, but when the first one left and the second one sat out, he was forced to operate an entirely new brand of offense where Arthur Smith's scheme relies heavily on over-the-middle in-breaking routes. As we can see from this graph, where Ryan targeted is on the right, with the red area illustrating he throws to that part of the field more than league average, the white areas at league average, and the blue below league average. Contrast this with the same graph but from 2019, when Ryan had Julio and Ridley at the height of their powers, and yeah, Ryan tossed the ball all over the field, outside, inside, deep, intermediate, and underneath. When you have talent at receiver, you can attack all areas of the field. But when you don't, you can't put those guys outside on islands like you could with Julio and Ridley, because they're just not going to win in space. So Smith designed his offense to feature almost exclusively quick in-breakers over the middle, which metaphorically squeezed Ryan into a tiny little box with not a lot of room to operate. Smith called the drift concept countless times, which is a hard play-action fake with a quick dig route running behind the sucked-up linebackers. This popped up on their film, I don't know, maybe a million different times, and despite how many countless examples defenses saw them use it, Ryan was really good at it. Rookie tight end Kyle Pitts caught a ton of these passes, but they only really used him as the intermediate drift receiver instead of attacking deeper down the field. One of the staples of the Julio and Ridley offense in the pre-Arthur Smith era was play action with just those two running deeper routes. They were so ungodly talented that the Falcons could rely on them to win against man or zone, even with 5, 6, 7 defenders circling them in coverage, even though deploying just 2 receivers to run routes is risky, since if they both don't win, there's nobody open. But these two were elite, especially winning down the field. Well, when you don't have even one wide receiver even in the same galaxy as either of them, it's hard to win on deeper concepts. Smith still wanted to run his in-breakers, but of course not just drift route after drift route, and the dagger concept is perfect for what he wanted to do. But when you have these guys who can't separate, can't win down the field, Smith had to scale that back, which restricted Ryan even more. Pair this with the fact that he was the 6th most pressured quarterback in the league, with an O-line that repeatedly got torched right at the snap, and Matty Ice had the least to work with in his 14-year career. Still, with his poison ability, he was able to squeeze out incredibly complex plays that he shouldn't have been able to make. As many of you might remember from my Trevor Lawrence episode a few weeks ago, this is nearly an identical read the squeeze concept that I swear to God every team runs on 3rd and 8+. It consists of mirrored swirl routes, which some coaches call corner stops, and a dig, sit route over the middle. Since the Lions are playing cover 3 zone with 3 deep defenders, that means these 2 hook defenders are put in conflict since there are 3 routes they have to defend. Instead of reading this like a progression style concept where Ryan goes 1, 2, 3, he instead reads the defense to see which route is squeezed. If both hook defenders play the swirls, nobody's there for the dig, and let's say this hook defender squeezes the dig, that opens up this swirl. But this play is a little different for a couple of reasons. First of all, on the offensive side, it isn't very well coached, since after the underneath receiver's chip, they need to quickly and aggressively run to the flat, so the outside curl flat defenders are conflicted. Look how both of them get tons of depth towards the swirls, since the flat receivers aren't sprinting out underneath, which would threaten that area and force these defenders to move up, providing some space for the swirls. The next aspect, making this that much more difficult for Ryan, is the Lions are running a drop 8 or P coverage, so they have an extra bonus dropper who's sitting right where the dig is taking place. This throws a wrench in almost the entire concept, where the only way to beat it is to execute it exactly how Ryan does it. He knows everything the Lions are running before they run it, so watch his head. Without even looking at the dig route, his eyes are trained to the left the entire time, knowing he has to move this bonus dropper. Then the moment he turns to the dig, he doesn't even have time to look at it. He knows from studying film what the Lions are doing and that he'll have this little sliver of space. The deck was stacked against him on a lot of these concepts, especially on 3rd and long when everyone knows you're passing and passing deep, but he was still able to make plays. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the league, he never has, so his film study preparation and thus his ability to decipher pre-snap tells are what make him effective. This is a concept the Saints have run for years that doesn't have a lot of answers to beat it. Basically, it's a 2-high safety coverage with 5 defenders on the line, but look at how they have just 1 defender for these 2 receivers. Something is up. Knowing that football counts receivers from the outside in, this coverage has 2 linebackers match the 2 and 3 receivers, and on this iteration blitzes these 2 defenders. You'd probably say, okay, Alex, well, let's just run a couple of outbreakers since these backers are snug so far inside. Well, cornerback Marcus Lattimore is trapping the flat in case the Falcons do just that. There is not a ton of space to operate against this coverage, but once again Ryan has a few tricks up his sleeve thanks to his film study preparation, and he knows what the Saints are running before they run it. One indicator he sees is that this cornerback is leveraged pretty heavy inside, which is a tell he's likely coming. It's pretty hard to blitz if you're leveraged outside since you'd have to run around the receiver at the snap. Then Ryan gives a hard count, sees this corner is showing pressure, and knows with these linebackers dropping, Lattimore trapping the flat, and of course the 2 deep safeties, he'll have this tiny little space on the outbreaker to Kyle Pitts, and without a well-executed throw, none of the pre-snap stuff really matters. His preparation also pays dividends in the run game, where he can help make adjustments in-game and at the line of scrimmage. In man coverage, which the Jags play a ton of, defenders often crack replace to make sure they're not wasting guys in the run fit. Crack replace means Rayshon Jenkins has Lee Smith in the run game, but if he sees Smith block someone else, you don't want Jenkins just sitting there, he has to immediately fill the alley. So when Ryan goes back to the sideline and sees on the tablets how this is playing out, he motions a receiver inside to take care of Jenkins, and Cordarrelle Patterson walks in a touchdown. Ryan is extremely versatile because he can understand what's coming before it happens and make the adjustments to put his team in the best possible situation. But since he's not really an elite physical talent with his arm or legs, any area he doesn't excel in can become a serious issue. His efficiency was far below league average against cover 2 zone, and it's hard to tell how much of that was on him versus how much of it was on the play calling. Smith didn't seem comfortable operating against 2 high defenses, and even when he had a good call, it often ended up being the wrong one. The Jags are showing a 2 high safety coverage, but are actually rotating down into 1 high. The Falcons have a version of the smash concept, which is a good 2 high beater, since in cover 2 zone there's a flat defender and a deep half up top, so the corner and flat routes stretch out the flat defender, and if he jumps up, Ryan throws the corner, and vice versa. However, when the Jaguars roll into just 1 high cover 3, this means the corner is playing a deep third and this defender is playing the flat. Now this isn't so much of a vertical stretch like before, it's more of a leverage play. There is room to make the throw, but Ryan leaves this inside instead of outside, which is a pick 6 9 times out of 10. Is this the bad play calling, Ryan missing the throw? It's hard to say for sure, which makes his transition to the Colts difficult to project. This past season, he didn't have quality surrounding talent or an above-average scheme and head coach, and yet still showed some of the impressive anticipation and preparation that we saw today. But when I watch him on film, I don't see a guy who can push the ball deep down the field. He's never really excelled there, and I don't see a guy who's consistently really accurate. Ice is a very, very good NFL quarterback, but when you stack him up against the rest of the league, he basically falls around the 14 through 16 range, which is smack dab in the middle of the pack. His yards per attempt in the last 3 years have ranked 15th, 16th, and 18th respectively, and he's getting pretty old at 37. Without a doubt, he's declining. The question is just how much. The Colts are now on their 5th quarterback in the last 5 years. And what do they really have to show for it besides the brilliance of Andrew Luck? Frank Reich and Chris Ballard are lauded by everybody in the NFL, but what do they have to show for this constant quarterback turnover? A wild card loss with Phillip Rivers? How much better right now is Matt Ryan than that year's Phillip? It all comes down to what your expectations are for the Colts in 2022. In a league where building year-over-year quarterback consistency is paramount, again bringing in another questionable average quarterback is not how you build a lasting winning culture, it's how you maintain mediocrity.